like, why am I working so hard? Is money the most important thing in life?
It's a huge competition, so it becomes a Hunger Game.
What do you think about work-life balance? Is it possible?
It's possible, it's real. I think many of us don't feel like work per se is meaningful every day. It's like colonialism still, right? Like slavery still, right?
Now you don't have to go through an ocean and invade a country. Instead, you could pay them less and make them work longer times. It comes from a very capitalistic system which requires a demand. Don't be okay with toxic environments. Always think there is better possibilities that you should move to. This is an unscripted conversation about work-life balance, and I think it's very relevant considering a lot of young people are getting burned out every single day. Please feel free to enjoy till the end. And as you do it, don't forget to subscribe. It means a lot to me. What do you think about work-life balance? Is it possible?
It's possible, it's real. Depending on the country and on a job too. Like I know I have a few friends that work as lawyers and depends. If you work for government, it's fine. But if you work for a private company as a lawyer, it's going to be extremely lot of overtime, and you have to push to be at the top. Otherwise, you're not valued enough if you don't push. But in Sweden overall, I would say having a good fika, leaving work at 5 or 4, not too uncommon is quite normal. And getting back to home for your kids or your hobby, whatever it is, that's valuable. You're valued as a person. Your colleagues are interested in who you are outside of work. It's important to be contributing to social environment at work by being a person outside of work.
Okay, a word kind of sticked out when we start this talk. If you want to push in the ladder of corporation, then you might not have a work-life balance. Did you mention that?
Yeah, exactly. It depends on the jobs, because some jobs are maybe not very like it's not possible to climb much. But those that are, and sometimes you're expected to be a person who does push.
Okay.
Right?
Yep. And since you talk about Sweden, maybe I should talk about India. I feel like in Sweden, it's much more easy to have a work-life balance. And that's because the systems are built in a way that it kind of facilitates this process. If you sit after 5 in offices, sometimes managers comes to you and tell them like, why are you sitting and working? Let's push it to tomorrow, go home. Or if it's a vacation, it's mostly like everyone takes vacation. It's legally, you can tell your employer to give vacation in specific times of year, and they are not they would give you. So it's more easy, I would say, to do work-life balance in Sweden, whereas in India, very hard. And I think like companies are really making use of young adults, making them work extremely long hours, and making them feel that it's the normal. So I feel quite bad when I look back and I look at my friends, or if I look at like my younger brother when he was young, when he was like a few more years back, they used to work after 6 or on a Saturday, which is unheard in Sweden. But yeah, so work-life balance is possible in certain countries which care about it.
Yeah, for sure. And also, depending on the profession, right?
Depending on the profession.
And a governmental job versus private sector, like if it's a huge company, you probably are going to be in a group trying to climb some ladders here and there.
And maybe it also could possibly depend upon the level of ambition you have. For example, like if you want to go up in the ladder, then you're competing with very different factors. Like you're competing with people who are willing to put that extra hour, so they are more visible. So that also contributes to imbalance in work and life.
I guess it depends on what kind of work environment you have, right? If your calling is all push, maybe you don't even want to climb the ladder, but you're forced to be a a hard worker and work maybe a bit overtime just to be at least normal, just to look like you work enough. Yeah, because of the work environment that the group created with their high ambition and stuff.
And I think like culture also plays a pivotal, like a very important role.
For sure.
Because in India, the culture is more like work very hard. And I think that comes from a place where people have been quite, suffering from lack of food, of like money, since India has been like a colony for Britain for a very long time. So they've been put in this place. And when they got this independence, freedom, there was the only way forward was working extremely hard. And somehow they mixed it up with work culture. They started believing like this is the way forward. Let's work very, very hard and produce value for multinational companies.
Isn't it also so many people that have to compete for a good position, a better paid job? It's a huge competition. So it becomes a hunger game. It becomes, who can push a little bit more? That's the one that's going to get it.
Makes sense. Like, for example, in India, it's 1.4 billion people, whereas in Sweden, it's 10 million. So in Sweden, the thing is, what I felt was the number of opportunities is higher than the number of people living in this place. And that's why a lot of highly skilled immigrants are taken from other countries and allowed to stay here. Whereas in India, everyone, if you throw a stone, it's going to hit on an engineer or a doctor. It's like how many people are getting out of quite good colleges over every year. And it's not easy to create opportunity for all of them. So it does create a very highly competitive environment where young adults are really pushed to work super hard to earn the minimum. Now, the other thing I would like to ask is that why is it needed? Why do you think work-life balance is an important thing?
Well, it's important to be able to feel like life has meaning. I think many of us don't feel like work per se is meaningful every day, but maybe we have free time activities we like, maybe we have a pet we love, friends to meet, or family we value, maybe more emotionally. So it will feel like we have time. So that's why it's important work-life balance. We have time to do the things that make concrete things that make life seem worth living. And some people have projects on the side, maybe to replace work with in far future, maybe some small business they can start. It's good.
Yeah, I understand
for that, but also take care of your health and like stress a bit less, so you can work more longer, because you might actually like burn out. Exactly, if you don't have that balance.
No, I think it's quite like a privilege. When I started working and when I kind of got used to the kind of Swedish way of living, I thought it was a privilege, because back home it's not easy to have a hobby that you can put time into, because you're expected to work and work should be always in your mind. Like when I talk to my friends who studied with me back in time, most of the conversation is around work. There is no more fun talks. It's mostly about what happened at work, about the colleagues. People are losing that innocent part of them that is passionate about certain things. And I think personally that it's very important you keep your passions closer to your heart, because it creates a lot of meaning. So work-life balance is absolutely a must, I would say, because it gives you a lot of rest, and it's a change of environment, and it definitely helps to make your life a bit more meaningful. Why do you think it's very hard? I mean, we did talk about the population aspect of why is it hard to implement everywhere, but what would you say are other challenges that makes it very hard around the world to implement work-life balance?
Acceptive population. Well, all kinds of things, culture, type of governance, politics. I don't know. I'm thinking work-life balance in North Korea. How does that look?
I mean,
Or
we are laughing, but they're having such a bad time.
I shouldn't even maybe talk about it. But let's say China, right, where it's more possible to get information from. It's ridiculous to talk about work-life balance in China because we depend so much on their labor,
Productivity, yeah.
their cheap work labor. People work so hard, and there are kids and people burn out for sure for almost nothing just so we can get our stupid, cheap clothes.
And iPhones and fast fashion, yeah. Now I feel like when you talk about China, I would like to also talk about Bangladesh or
that too.
India
So much
or Pakistan. Like, I would say all the products that the West uses, and they look down on these countries, most of them. Like, I wouldn't...
Slaves there so we can have our work-life balance. That's how it is. Let's put it that way.
Exactly. Like they will be like, oh my God, why are they like suffering so bad? Their like systems are not good. The truth is, it comes from a very capitalistic system which requires a demand. And
It's globalized capitalism. So before globalization, the way it is now, industrialization made capitalism, you could say, I think, like as it is.
yeah,
But before it went as global as it did, you could like enslave your own country's citizens. But now it's like colonialism still, right? Like slavery still, right?
now you don't have to go through an ocean and invade a country. Instead, you could pay them less and make them work longer times.
Exactly. Because we depend on, when it comes to products, on different labors in different countries to pass through because it's cheaper there.
Yeah.
And it's already, the countries get enslaved into the system because now the population there depends so much on that. So let's say if H&M would suddenly stop asking Bangladesh for labor, they would quit their work there entirely. What would people there do? It would be
not just what people will do, but also like how do they make profit, right? The whole profit actually comes from cheap labor.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is this big company, they can go find cheap labor in another country. What I'm saying is that country they would be leaving would be in huge crisis. So this slavery system that we put upon country per country, they get very dependent on it, and there's nothing. They get in trouble if it's gone.
Yeah.
What do they replace with?
It's a good point, and I think, but I also feel like
Maybe they don't have the resources people don't have the systems and resources to start their small companies and businesses start growing to do what the people who own H&M, the starters of this company. Why can't people start companies like that in smaller countries?
See, I think the problem is that back in time, and we're going a bit off topic, but we'll come back. The problem is that they had a bit more time to create these systems. I feel like, for example, the winners or the victors of the World War had an upper hand from the moment they won the war, and they had a lot of money which they kind of like accumulated, and they created the new world order. And this caused a lot of problem with all the small countries, which, for example, like Africa, which was colonized, or India or Bangladesh or everyone around. They become part of the system where they are not having a government that's stable enough to help its own citizens.
So that was before First or Second World War. I have to understand. Cool.
I don't think, maybe it's before, but it's also part of colonization of people coming in and kind of destabilizing
before the First World War.
Yes. And then they left.
Yes.
And when they left, there was, like people struggling to build a working government. Anyway, coming back, so you see the role of capitalism when it comes to a lack of work-life balance. So the best example would be, what do you think about the US?
Well, I don't have much. I mean, US, it's between heaven and hell. There's a huge difference. Like what's happening. Like in Sweden, because of this socialist system that we have higher taxes and state higher control and stuff like that. There's less difference between people who are very well off and people not well off. There's no absolute poverty. So yeah, the unemployment is not that big, things like that. In US, everything is between heaven and earth. It's extremely the richest people of the world and extremely a lot of homeless people. Where's the work-life balance there? I'm thinking, okay. And then people who do work, it's a lot of illegally employed. Same, actually, in Sweden, we have quite some illegally employed from some Eastern European countries, second world countries, even from Thailand sometimes too, and countries from Asia. But in the US, it's a huge market of slavery, like people coming from
underdeveloped places and being used.
Because they think of the American dream. And now Sweden also is a little bit of an American dream for
Europe,
countries, right?
Understand.
Like UK and Germany too, like some, second world countries think, okay, these parts of Europe, this is really good. We go there. And it's been good, but yeah.
Yeah, I think this is
back to work-life balance. I think it depends in US on where you're employed. Obviously, if you're employed in a nice, good company, post-graduation, like you have a university degree, you're gonna be okay. But then it depends. It can be very competitive in US. It's a dreamers' country, right? It's people come there to reach their
Yes, ambitious people working towards going up. So definitely, like
international people coming there from second world countries to ready to also work their ass off. Maybe.
Yes, maybe most possibly. Would you say like overworking contributes to meaninglessness in life?
It can and it does, but doesn't have to. So like, okay, depends on what you work with. Do you see it entirely meaningless? For sure. It can also be very meaningful to overwork, because sometimes it's doing a little bit extra and like, God, I'm burning myself out, but I'm doing it for a better cause, for this project I believe in or whatever. I think it really depends. For me, it's also very nice when it comes to work per se that I have a routine and a meaningfulness. I come to work and I can kind of like breathe out, like, okay, here I actually have a meaning.
Yeah, I understand. Like we did talk about it before as well, like especially when it comes to retirees who have been working all their life. Yeah. Suddenly one day they stop working and they don't know what to do. They wake up and they have so much time. And that immediately creates a lack of meaning in life and about what am I supposed to do for the day. So work does give meaning, but at the same time, even if it's for a good purpose, if you work extremely hard without taking enough rest, I would say you have physical problems. You have a chance of getting depressed. You have a chance of having nervous breakdown where, your body starts showing signs of fast aging.
If you're working more than, you can manage, because just working 8 hours a day is a lot, because that's a third of your whole 24-hour cycle. If you're working then maybe 10, 12 hours of that, you barely have time to maybe cook and eat your food. Do you
or sleep less?
Yes. Sleep less. Like, do you get to meet people, say hi, or are you completely isolated? Like, do you get any time? If you have kids, maybe it's so stressful, then you have zero time for yourself. You're gonna crash anytime and maybe gonna be like out of work.
Yes.
Gladly in Sweden, you can get on a long time sick leave for this kind of thing. In many countries, you can't.
Yes.
And you get paid for that.
That's crazy about socialism works in a very specific way that social welfare is quite up there. And so if you get sick from work, they pay you. If you
it's to be eligible.
Exactly. Like you need to go to a doctor and they do analysis on your situation and then they kind of provide certificates. But it's definitely possible. The country actually has systems to help people who burn out and they can take time off work. So that's good. Now to the final question: How do you bring work-life balance in a personal life? What are the few things you need to be careful about?
is number one.
Yeah, I agree, definitely.
Do you have time to do a proper sleep and to cook your dinners?
Yes. And maybe,
And I guess it depends. It depends, but you have to have some little meaningful time for yourself every day, whenever that is.
and also maybe like start really thinking for yourself. Like I would say, there's a lot of ways, like most of the things people think about doesn't come from within them. They are not questioning actively, like, why am I working so hard? Is money the most important thing in life? Or is there like things above that? So I think like definitely people have to question their lifestyles and make changes and definitely take actions to come up with, if you need to change jobs, have to do that. But whatever you do, try to do it in a way that aligns with your goals in life. And then I would say it creates a place where you feel balanced.
What's your tip for people in India to get to work-life balance?
I would say start actively renegotiating your responsibilities. Don't be fine with people treating you badly. If someone asks you to work overtime, talk to them about the physical and mental problems you're going to have. And it might not be a solution. Like people would be like on a queue to replace you. But that's how it is. But I still think people have to stand on their feet and openly talk about their mind if there has to be any kind of change. And possibly at some point you'll find a job which accepts you on how you are. Might not be in India, might be outside, but that's the way to be. Don't be okay with toxic environments. Always think there is better possibilities that you should move to. And that's my opinion about it. Thank you for listening. We'll be back with a new video. Tune into that as well. Goodbye.